Hey there! Welcome to the channel where you will find love, laughs, and DIYs. My name is Crafty Kathy, and I am tickled pink that you came to spend some time with me today. In today's video, I have some high-end, vintage-inspired home decor, and I think that you guys are absolutely going to love it. And if you find value in this video, please hit the like button because it really helps me out on YouTube. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I'd love for you to become a part of our family. Now let's jump into this video. I'm going to start off with one of my old farmhouse windows. And you know that these actually come out of an old farmhouse here in Tennessee. And I'm going to use Skeleton Key, which is my favorite gray color by DIY Paint. And I'm also going to use the beadboard, which is an off-white color, because I don't want the gray in that Skeleton Key to be a darker gray. I want it to be a little bit lighter. So we're just going to mix mostly Skeleton Key with a little bit of beadboard and get the color that I desired. Now, I always wash and clean these windows really good before I ever start the front and the back because I do use both sides. So I did a little test here to make sure that it is the color I wanted, and it is. So what I do is go all the way around everywhere where you see the white, and I'm going to give it 2 coats of this color. If you're interested in any of the paint products that I'm using today, or to get 10% off of IOD, I'm going to leave Lori at Milton's Daughter her information down below and how you can get 10% off if you use her shop. I flipped this over and painted the back beadboard. Then I have a stencil that I got off of Amazon, and it is linked in my Amazon store if you want one. And I cut the pieces down because I needed it to be in smaller pieces. And it says the song, How Great Thou Art. I really love that. That's my favorite gospel song. And it says, Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee, how great thou art. I absolutely love that. And this is the first time I've ever tried to stencil on one of these windows. You know, usually I just do the transfers and leave it be. But I wanted to do this one upon a special request. I used the color Cake Batter for most of it. It is also a DIY paint. And then I just used a black Waverly chalk paint to do some of the words, just to kind of break up the monotony of the color. I'm so proud of how this turned out. I think it looks great. And you know, when I stencil, I almost am using a dry brush. Very, very light bit of paint on my stencil brush, and I just pounce it up and down. Now I am going to use transfer, and this is the Ruby Rose, and it's from Prima Redesign. I simply do these like I do any transfer. I lay them out in the pattern that I want them to go in. And then they all come with the little tool that you use to rub across the top of your transfer. You just peel it off of the back, lay it on the whatever the project is you're putting it on, and you use your little tool to rub it. And in doing so, it comes off almost like a sticker. And so I went all over this picture and put it where I wanted it to go. Then I was finished doing that, I burnished it. And that just means where you rub that film that you just took that piece off of, you rub it over your piece, and it just basically helps it to stick down a little better. I had some birds that I had made from resin from a previous DIY, and I wanted to use these and put them on the top. And so I just painted them with the Cake Batter color, and then they're on a branch, and I painted that brown. And I'm going to place that up at the top. I glue it up there with my wood tight glue, and then I just tape it down and leave it alone overnight so that it will stick. Then I used my Dixie Belle Best Dang Wax, and I went all the way around this. With the DIY paint, you have to seal it. And so I sealed everything in really good with my Dixie Belle Best Dang Wax. And then I used a wax brush, and then I just wiped off the excess. Then the next day I just took the tape off the birds, and it's beautiful. I'm walking down the street on clouds instead of the concrete I'm dancing through.
come my way, nothing can ruin my day. No matter what anyone does or say, I smile at fools. No, I don't care, cause I am on my way up, and I won't.
For DIY number 2, I am going to use this new Dixie Belle color that I got. It's called Pumpkin Spice, and I think this is a gorgeous color. And I'm simply going to take 2 of those smaller little terracotta pots from the Dollar Tree and 2 of the little tiny ones. I'm going to give these 2 coats of the pumpkin spice, letting it dry in between coats. I've got some burlap ribbon. One is from burlapfabric.com and one's from the Dollar Tree. I actually decided to use the one from the Dollar Tree because I liked the way that it looked a little bit better. It was a little bit of a darker color, and that's what I was going for. I just cut off a piece, and then I cut off those ends because I don't want those on there. Next, I'm going to take and wrap this around the bottom portion of the larger of the pots, and it's going to go all the way around. Just make sure you get it right underneath that rim at the top, and I just used hot glue to get it to stay. I cut off any of the excess that I had hanging over, and then I just glued that bottom part down so that it would sit flat. Next, I'm going to draw some eyeballs on here, and I just draw 2 big round black circles with my Sharpie, and then I'm going to leave just a little bit of the burlap showing on the furthest left side there. Then I take my white paint pen and I'm just going to color in that little area that I just left and didn't do, I didn't do the black on it. And then I put 2 little dots on the right hand side, and that makes his little eyeballs. Next, I use my black Sharpie and I just make a little rounded nose. And I am going to then take my orange colored Arteza marker and color that in orange and put 1 white dot on the right hand side. And then to make the mouth, I simply make kind of like a little squiggly line with the little grinny face at the top there, or the little dimple looking thingies. Then I'm just going to take some of this Dollar Tree hay, and I've got about a 3 to 4 inch piece. I tie it in the center with some jute twine, and I'm going to put just a little bit of glue where I tied it together, and then I'm going to like bend it and stick it down inside, and that's going to be his hair. Then I'm just going to take a couple of loose strands of the hay, and I'm going to glue it on the very bottom part of one of the pots, and then put some more hot glue. And I tried to stick his head on, but I also needed to use some super glue, so I used my Star Bond glue to make it stick really well. Then to cover that area up, I cut a small piece of a Dollar Tree ribbon off, the thin ribbon, and I'm just simply going to glue this part around where that area shows where his neck is connected. Then I'm simply going to take and cut out 2 squares, small squares, because these are just going to go on his belly, and it's just for a little extra embellishment. One's a little bit larger and one's just a little bit smaller, and then I just glued those on there with my hot glue gun. And then I took my Sharpie and I just kind of outlined around the very edge of that. I'm going to take some more of the hay, and this time instead of folding it in the middle, I'm just going to cut it. And then I'm simply going to glue this down in the very bottom of the two smaller little pot holders or plant holders. And I did this in both of the two smaller little plant holders. Then I took some of this thicker jute twine, and I got this off of Amazon, but it's basically about the same perimeter as the kind that you get from Walmart. And I'm just going to put a daub of glue on the very bottom part of what's going to be his little arm, and I'm going to glue that rope to that to create the arms. Then I went up underneath where I put the little ribbon on his neck, and that is where I'm going to put a little bit of glue, and I'm going to put the little arms attached right there. And they're just going to hang freely. I'm going to use the same size rope for the legs, and at the very bottom I tied a little knot, which is kind of going to be a little foot. Then I'm going to take these two very small pine cones that I have, and I'm going to paint them with that same pumpkin spice color that I painted the body of my little planter man with. And then I cut that knot off right at the very bottom part where all I have is the knot and there's no overhang. And then I just glue that on to the pine cone, and these are going to be his feet. Then I'm just going to go in the very front of the little man, and I'm going to put the glue, one on each side, and then glue that down. And I also used a little bit of the Star Bond glue here too, just to make sure that we had a really good hold. Then I went in and did the exact same thing on the opposite side, and those are going to be his little feet. And here's what the little man looked like. I also made a little girl, and I'll show you how I did that one. Now to do the little girl, I did everything the exact same thing. The only difference is I'm going to put some bows in her hair and give her some hair. So I'm just doing the little figure-8 bow, and I'm going to quickly tie this with some jute twine. To make her hair, I take about 6 inches of the hay. I fold it in the center, and I'm simply going to glue it on one on each side, and it's going to be like little pigtails. And so it's going to go one on each side of the head. Then I'm going to take that little figure-8 bow that I just made, and I'm just simply going to glue it right on the very top of where the little pigtail meets the head there. And that's going to be like little ribbons in her hair, and I do that on each side. Isn't she just the cutest little thing? Now I'm going to make a little finger bow, and I do that by wrapping jute twine about maybe 4 times around about 3 to 4 fingers. And then I just tie that in the middle with my jute twine, right in the very center. Just squish it together and tie it. Then I take my scissors and I cut the loops, and literally just cut them, and they kind of frays out everywhere. And then I just clip it down a little bit so it looks a little bit nicer. Then I just hot glued this down to what would be her little collar there, the little ribbon that we put around her collar. And then you know I've got to finish it off with my little vintagey button because I think that's cute. And then you just cut down any stray hairs that kind of looks crazy or anything. And that's how I made the little girl. Super easy.
Gonna stay in this moment. Gonna lay here on the grass. I don't need to feel lonely. I am finally home at last. And I don't mind being gone on adventures for a while. No, no. 'Cause the best thing about it is I know I'm coming back. Oh, oh. Of all the magic places in the world I've been to, this is where my heart is. Oh, you know it's true. No matter where I go, I'm coming home to you. Been walking down the street so.
Now we're moving right into DIY number 3. This one is simple and quick. I have this little tag that came from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to use my new Dixie Belle color called Juniper, and it's a fall color. I'm going to put 2 coats of this all over the front of this. Then I simply went to my Cricut and I pulled this up under the phrases on Cricut, and it says running on pumpkin spice and Jesus. I thought this was so beautiful, and I love to do this in the white color because it really pops with that green juniper color. Now the little cutout that is at the top, the little pumpkin, we're going to make that kind of look 3D. I took an old scarf and I literally just kind of cut out a large square, and I flipped my board over and I filled that little pumpkin part with like some cotton balls. And then I'm just going to glue my square down on 3 sides to the back of this board. Then I'm going to take that last side and I'm going to flip it over, and it's almost going to make like a little pillow, if you will, where the little cotton balls are going to be the inside of it. It's like a little pillow on the back that I have glued on the back. And when you place it up against the wall, it's going to be 3D, and the little pumpkin's going to stick out. That color is gorgeous with the green.
A little different than all the rest. I'm quite old-fashioned, wear a hat, sometimes play chess. And when I'm out, I'm looking for that vintage fling.
If you're enjoying this content so far, I would like to ask you to hit that like button because it really helps me out on YouTube. And I would love for you to subscribe and become a part of my family. All you have to do is hit that little red subscribe button, and there's a bell beside it. And when you click that bell, YouTube will let you know every time I put out a video. Now let's get into our last DIY. This one is a basket that I got at the thrift store for only $3. I absolutely love this style of basket. I have several of them. This is the most shallow one that I have, which would make it perfect to go on the wall if I wanted to. I'm going to take it outside and I'm going to give it about 3 coats of a color called moss green, and it is by Rust-Oleum 2 times, which is my favorite. And then I'm also going to go over it with the Rust-Oleum matte clear to seal it really good. And that's absolutely all I did to this one. I'm going to show you what it looks like by itself and then styled. Hey, if you guys stuck with me through this whole video, I just want to say thank you so much for believing in me and for coming and spending a little bit of time with me today. I love each and every one of y'all. And don't forget, every Tuesday and Friday, I have my videos out at 6:30 Eastern Standard Time. And until I see you guys again on Friday, I hope that y'all have a very blessed week. Stay safe, and I love you all. God bless.